Great to see you all here. Classes have just begun. Last night, what insurance companies call it an act of God happened. There's a leaking ceiling in this basement, so please, if things start leaking your way, just move up front, okay? I'm closing it. My name is Jack Chen. I'm the director of the Asian Pacific American Institute. We're really delighted, pleased, overjoyed to have Suheir Hammad be our artist in residence this year. And you're going to hear more about what she's going to be doing. But I just want to introduce her a little bit to you. I think all of you probably know a lot about her already through her work, but I'll just kind of say a few things. I looked her up in Wikipedia, and it was interesting because maybe this is on a lot of sites, I'm not sure, but the first thing I read was, this biographical article needs additional citations for verification. Please help by adding reliable sources. Contentious material about living persons that is unsourced or poorly sourced must be removed immediately, especially if potentially libelous or harmful. But then it goes on to really a lovely description of Suheir. So I'll read a little bit of it. Suheir Hammad is a Palestinian-American poet, author, and political activist. She was born in Amman, Jordan. Her parents were Palestinian refugees who immigrated along with their daughter to Brooklyn, New York City, where when she was 5 years old, her parents later moved to Staten Island. And I understand that was for high school, so it was really, it must have, as an adolescent, so it gets into, as an adolescent, Hammad was heavily influenced by Brooklyn's vibrant hip-hop scene. She had also absorbed the stories her parents and grandparents had told her of life in their hometown of Lida before the 1948 Palestinian exodus, and of the suffering they endured afterwards, first in the Gaza Strip and then in Jordan. From these disparate influences, Hammad was able to weave into her work a common narrative of dispossession, not only in her capacity as an immigrant, a Palestinian, and a Muslim, but as a woman struggling against society's inherent sexism, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so now, I know as a professor we're supposed to say don't use Wikipedia, but I think this is actually a pretty good description. The other thing I wanted to say is that she's been, a lot has been written about her, and she's gotten a lot of press from the Amsterdam News, Essence, Hip Hop Magazine, the Middle East Report, and she's appeared in various anthologies. I think probably a lot of you perhaps have seen her or heard of her through Russell Simmons' Def Jam performance on Broadway. A lot of you saw that? Yeah, okay, I see it, which was spectacular. But I think it's easy for us to kind of hold that image of that moment of her life and her work as what she does. But in fact, she's an amazing creative artist who keeps on moving, and from book to book to book, she's really pushing the boundaries. Some of what she's written has appeared in her own books. They include Breaking Poems, which received a 2009 American Book Award and the Arab American Book Award for poetry, and Zatar Diva, Born Palestinian, Born Black, and Drops of This Story. And she's also appeared as the lead actor in Salt in the Sea. How many of you have seen that? Okay, it was at the Quad recently, and if it comes back again, you really need to see it. And it was her debut acting premiere, and just a few awards. She's won the Audre Lorde Writing Award at Hunter College 1995 and 2000, the Morris Center for Healing Poetry Award 1996, the New York Mills Artist Residency in 1998. Just a few. Just for the academics. Yes, it is. It has to be. We're being taped. So I've got the Van Leer Fellowship in 1999, the 2001 Emerging Artist Award at the Tony Award for her work in Deaf Poetry Jam, Russell Simmons, and I can go on. What I'm really happy to say is that she's here with us at NYU, and she'll be having, hopefully, the time and resources to be able to work on her project on the Queen of Sheba. And so she's really here tonight to just kind of talk about that range of work that she's done and to kind of open up some discussion with you all about that. So without any more delay, please welcome the Queen of Sheba.
I deserved that for making you hurry up. Hello. Are there any questions? Be free.
How are you?
I'm well, I'm emotional. Any other questions? It's so funny, sometimes you feel like you're in an upside down world and things don't make sense, and yet we insist on asking the questions at the end of our time together when there's really no opportunity to think back on it or sit with it. So I figured since my days have been feeling upside down, I'd start with, are there any questions?
How was your upside down day?
My upside down day. What was special about my day today? I mean, I got up. I was nervous today about some of the new work that I want to read. I thought of Sabra and Shatila, 28 years to the day of the massacre of Palestinian refugees in Lebanon. One of the shaping moments in my life was seeing those images on the daily news on the way to school, PS 172. So that was part of my day. So that's an interesting thing, right? How like my day was about 28 years ago. I hadn't really, no wonder I'm so tired. And emotional. Maybe I have questions then. How many masks did you wear today? You don't have to say the number out loud, especially if your partner is sitting next to you and they have a number, then you have a number. But if anyone wants to throw a number out in your day, 3, that's a good number.
Yeah, 3 for me too.
3. So the mask, a persona, a personality, it's face and tongue as well. So how many languages did you speak today?
2. 3.
When I bought my books at the Goodwill, I did not use the same English with that teller that I did at the Bank of America window. It was still English, but it wasn't really the same language. So those are the kinds of questions I've been asking myself partly. Are there any questions now? I have another question. Oh, what? Where are you?
How hard is it to take the mask off?
So I'm wondering, is the mirror a mask? I'm wondering if you know how, especially if you come from what they call the underprivileged masses of the public school system, you know how like the most comfortable you feel is when you speak what they would call ignorant? And there's something about that comfort too that is a distancing, and yet it is the closest you can get to who you are. So I've been wondering, does anyone have an answer? I have a mic for those questions. Oh, that's what's been happening. I have a mic for your questions and your answers. She's gonna repeat the question. No, the question is, can you take the mask off? Can you take a mask off? Anyone have any thoughts? You know what the great thing is, we're not in class. So there is definitely no right answer. I mean, I know we have some visual artists here who work with images, faces, the mathematics of a body, of a posture, in painting or in photography. What do you guys think about masks?
Want me to just say it out loud, or?
Yeah, there's a
raise my hand
microphone,
and stuff?
although you do have a nice deep bass, thank you very much.
I don't know, I'm good. I always get a lot of complaints that I speak too loud anyway, so I don't think I need the mic. I feel like, I think that's a great question, first of all. It's a great concept, but I tend to think of it more in terms of language, but I've never really looked at it visually. And as a visual artist myself, I find that, my goodness, there is a visual mask. Because I think of it in terms of language, like social linguistics. Like, yeah, I will code switch. I will use a different vernacular. I will walk into the bodega and will speak in Spanish so that they know that I am Puerto Rican and I'm not, whatever they think I am, and they'll try to speak to me in the broken English. Or I will try to use as many syllables in a word when I'm speaking to my son's principal, so
Right.
that he has no predispositions as to who I am and where I'm coming from. And I will try to use a certain tone of warmth when I'm speaking to my wife, and yet evoke some goofiness when I'm with a friend. And at the same time, I never realized that I am wearing different masks. And it doesn't feel like I actually take the masks off, more than I kind of just turn it a little bit. It's like the same hat. I can,
The same hat at a different
if
angle.
I'm putting it like this, if I'm tilting it to the left, or if I'm tilting it to the right, or if I just move the glasses down a little bit. And it is a certain thing about even a posture. And in terms of like visual arts, and maybe you even agree with this too, is like sometimes you have to carry yourself also as a brand when you kind of like walk into a space. So it's almost like there's always an opportunity to kind of like present yourself. And I brand for print, for web, and using photography, but I have to remember that I myself am kind of like a representation of my art, because I'm not walking around with my portfolio floating around me like holograms and stuff. But it's it's an interesting concept.
So this
I love the
idea
concept.
of, I really appreciate that, right? So this concept of, yourself, your identity as a brand, right? Or your identity as currency,
Yeah, it certainly is.
right?
Yeah.
And so we definitely understand today the fluidity of currency, right? Even if I don't understand what happens in the Wall Street pages, I understand that what I'm sold as a value
Yeah.
is relative, right?
We all have social capital. Yeah.
So these are some of the things that I've been thinking about, right? I could tell you a story that has a math to it, but it doesn't matter really where I begin in the story. So I'll begin in the middle of the story. I'm not an actor, and I was at a checkpoint called Kalendia checkpoint. It's between Ramallah and Jerusalem. I remember going from Ramallah to Jerusalem 10 years ago, and it took 20 minutes. So 3 years ago, it's like dozens of Palestinians at a real checkpoint, my real passport, and my Belgian cinematographer behind me, pretending he did not speak English, and pretending that he wasn't with anybody. He was just really stupid and kept taking pictures, these wide-angle pictures of the checkpoint. So the soldiers kept going over to him, and he was really cute and Belgian, Benoit. And they were like, "We told you already, stop shooting." And he'd be like, "Oh, sorry," and then he would go. And I had to wait till I got through the checkpoint, and I could not turn around. It took an hour and a half to get through that checkpoint, and no one else there was an actor except my friend Manad, who was the makeup girl who came in as an extra, and she was the most serious extra. Because even after we had gone through, I was like, "Manab, turn around and look at me, I'm traumatized." She was like, "Are they still shooting?" And it was like, oh, she was all concerned about the back of her head, She's like, so we had to stay there for all of that time. I got through the checkpoint with my passport. I had to come back, we had to shoot it again. So it's like 2 hours at that checkpoint, right? 3 years before, I had gone through that checkpoint. And I was not allowed to leave Ramallah to go into Jerusalem. I didn't know I was gonna be in a movie. I didn't wanna be in a movie. I didn't wanna go through that checkpoint again. So when I was filming that scene, I didn't really know what the reality was in a certain, a part of me felt like there had been this ghost of me, like 3 years before, that was so traumatized by the experience that I left less than I had come. So this past October, hello, you're just in time for the end of the beginning of the story. So this past October, I find myself at Kalandia checkpoint, and I have with me my Queen of Sheba manuscript that I've been working on like my whole life, but let's say two years. And it's like the hard copy, which I have a copy of at home, but also it's all the notes I've made in the past 2 years, it's all the changes I want to make. And I have it, it's this big gray binder, I carry it everywhere and it's really uncomfortable. And I get to Kalandia checkpoint and I'm held for 20 minutes. And just like my character in the movie, which was a scene I shot that I had not experienced, I, Suheir Hammad, was not allowed to get into Jerusalem. And I was sent back without my book to the wall that you saw in that movie at the quad and waited for a taxi. At that point, I didn't understand really that, like in October, I understood nothing. Right? I didn't know what the past was, what the beginning was. I didn't know who that girl was that shot that film. I didn't know anything. And I lost my manuscript. And like everybody else before me, I had brought the Queen of Sheba to Jerusalem as she had left me. Because for all of those years, all of that research, all of that interest in her, I had a story that I wanted to tell. Have you been to Kalandia lately? Will you take the mic?
Sure.
Did
No.
you go through Kalandia this month?
I went through Kalandia the last time on August 22nd. August 22nd. It took me 3.5 hours.
Did you wait on a line where you could take bags through, or did you wait on a line where you could only take your body through?
Only body.
Only
No
body.
bags. It was a Friday. No bags allowed. Any line. No bags.
What kind of passport do you have?
U.S.
Could I have the poems I gave you earlier?
You want them now?
Yeah. I just want to ask you one more question about Kalandia. How did you as an American feel about the way the majority of civilians, the Palestinians under occupation, what did their response and their reaction to that 3-hour wait, what did it make you think about, if anything?
Their reaction was, I would say, split between people who were resigned and people for whom the idea that this wasn't normal didn't exist. And so it was hard. I felt like cattle. Cattle, yeah.
So it's like a physical schizophrenia.
Yeah, it's an out-of-body experience. You cannot be in something that's just as wide as your shoulders with 100 people in front of you and 100 people behind you in cages everywhere without being out of your body, because, that's just...
Right, so this is what I'm thinking, right? So what I'm thinking is that we all have these traumatic experiences, right? Like, let's take the 5 million homeowners whose homes have been foreclosed on in the past 2 years, right? It's like serious trauma. I keep thinking about people who no longer have that home. They have a home, but they don't have that home, and that they're walking with this trauma, and I feel like I see their ghosts. Like, that's one maybe economic relation that people can share, because so many times they make it about like, racial difference or gender difference and stuff. So I'm like, okay, what if you just broke and you see that people can't get into their homes anymore? It's like they're ghosts. the other is the schizophrenia. So I'm gonna read, I was thinking this time when I went through Kalendia, I couldn't find my book. What would happen if the Queen of Sheba entered Jerusalem through Kalendia? And what would happen if the Queen of Sheba was not going to visit the temple, but she was the temple? Which is just as likely as there ever having been a temple. Do I look serious when I say that? So this is going through Kalendia this year. To enter on foot through concrete, on blocked road, cold grills clocking a stoning path turns, style shifting border, a hemming in, cocked commandments, amplified wire, razored to debase. To enter and exit, I leave dates, my palms, the herb, the keys, the stone, the gift, the lease, anything sharp, everything tender, no longer needed, the needed, I leave behind all my time. Detach sardonic's chest, scent of clove hovering, unlatch olivine throat, hoopoo song flies into wall, bend tower of neck, unlaced shields, his voice a zodiac of charms, a turquoise heart ringing half empty, left cup cufflink, ribs a candelabra, to cross, over circle the soldiers circling, be watched, towered, be moved, be returned, dethrone self, hum thistle neck, remove face, landscape carnival of masks, smoking hills, stone cheeks, iron glove imprinted enemy, weight, wilt, eyes he swam to shore in. Copper, brass, silver wrists, one by one rested, 7 trampled a tin skirt, scarlet under purple, under blue, sandalwood shed feet, calluses, I keep a compass. Drop, jasper, disjoint, cedar fingers, brass spine, declaration, all his letters, all words, beads, worry, I keep myrtle, roots, my hair, sage, leaves, also seed, funnel, visa, via, waiting, shoved, waiting, touched, waiting, waiting, to pass, scissor through rock, paper identity, cut away accessory, intimates, rent, slip of lead, petticoats of metal spike, raven remains, echo. That's the beginning of that poem. And I remembered that I wanted to, thank you, I appreciate it. You could do anything you want, but boo. Like there's enough booing in my life. So I wanted to show a little bit of, and maybe you guys want to talk about also in your minds and in your hearts, the process of when you go back and you not go back, when you have a different perspective and you see the threads of the thing that you're weaving, or you begin to make these. Basically, there's nothing new under the sun, and there's a story that keeps returning to you, to us in different ways, right? Like sometimes I used to think, I think in the most vulgar Sex and the City ways, you kind of just see it act out in, your relationships, or like Freud really did us a disservice by like making us hate our parents, and there are all these ideas about how we think that are institutionalized, right? The way our brains are supposed to work, A equals this, B equals that, like that's supposed to have a meaning that we have to accept. So I decided to look at words in a different way. And the last 2 poems in Breaking Poems, they're different than the rest of the work. So I wrote this book in chronological order. That's very scary because people get in your mind. You usually want to do like a collection and edit. But this was a poem about Kalendia, but I'm going to read it backwards. Because it doesn't matter where you begin, right? If it's the story. It can be anywhere. Through partition, the plan, pieces, the map, road, the face, my mirror best. Voices, waves, lost sea, women open, lands wet, parts of spare, sun of flight, blueprint of they have been. What done men, where, memory, a body. onto projected map, haunting a dream. Another's is nonviolence, blanket in whimper, low baby holds a mother. The 5 who, for what, boy's shoulder, son's hand, IV, thigh, blind, a father's slip, hospital denied, permission away, forward, walk, alert, absence. They're quiet, so 4, family, ahead, a Kalindia. And this is Break Mirror, backwards. Face set, stunned on eyes, whore bent, gilded sea, current, shadow, navel, base. Toward, conned, iced, mind, dime, street, paradise, hymn, broken knees, river carved cheeks, hallowed me come, all Anna encoded, arc, chalice, lucent, seamed, barely fabric, sunlit bayou, brass, music, organ, molted iron, dust, sift, bone, water, sin, wade, misted sight, ages witness, ancient, recently, twist, crescent, combed, silver, gravity, brush, first. I didn't realize that ended with first until now. How are you doing? You have any questions? You have a question?
I could just say it though.
The CIA needs documentation too.
I think it's true that you can meet a ghost somewhere. And I'm wondering how it was to meet up your ghost at that moment. And how it felt.
Terrifying and crazy. I made another ghost. I made the, it's an owl ghost. This can't be happening ghost. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, how many people grew up in New York City and walk around the city and see your ghost just walking around, and your ghost is looking for antique boutique, and it's looking for, Astor Place, Barnes and Noble even. That's the recent ghost. You're like, what? It's not around. So there's also that of like how we move in the landscape. And then, right, there's like the things that we do that are ghosts. So that even when we're present in our communities and where we're supposed to be, there's the parts of us that cannot be seen. Just can't. So then we carry ghosts too. And there is this, when I studied for breaking poems and breaking letters, I wanted to understand the sense of trauma, and I don't know much, but there's a theory that when you experience trauma, your mind, your conscious self leaves the situation. That's how you survive. So always coming, like a memory, this might be your experience, it might not, but if you think about the really horrible stuff, like how can anyone survive it? You don't. In a way, you actually don't. So this kind of echo of coming back to worry something, to cleanse it, to see if it's changed, is part of the work that I'm doing. Did you ever run into one of your ghosts?
Oh, yeah.
Was she silent or loud?
I stood outside.
Use your mic so they can hear you in the back. Is it?
Yes.
I think it was.
Oh, Suheir, what are you doing?
Answer your question.
Yes, I did. There was a ghost I left in an SRO in San Francisco, back from when I was 21 and disowned. And I would go visit the ghost all the time in San Francisco. For years I would go visit it until it finally. It was a good. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else has run into themselves or seen themselves in the future? Is this too creepy for school?
Yeah.
This is me 24/7. Obviously, this is why I stay away from all things. What else do you all talk about? I don't understand. What is there to talk about in life? But what it's about? I don't. Okay. Well, it's you're gonna just be seeing your ghosts all semester long, all fall long. You're gonna be seeing your ghosts. You might even see our ghosts.
You see your ghosts in other people.
Yeah. A man told me that, and it was like the craziest thing. He told me that when he heard me read, so for me that meant when he saw me read my poems, like he saw me live my poems, that he understood his mother's sadness. That's a very damning thing to say about my face. I was just like, in Arabic, I was like, 60 Senehem, which is like 60 years of drama, But he saw his mother in me, and when he saw his mother in me, I saw her in him. Do you know, like that? And I understand that, when you're a poet, I don't know, I guess gynecologists have the same things. People just tell you deep, personal, like emotional thing. Actually, that is a really good connection. I'm alright. Yes, because it is related. It's absolutely, absolutely, and not just when Mary sings. But people tell you stuff. Are you blushing for me? I'll blush later. Later, I'll be in my room alone and be like, I cannot believe I said that for the AP archives.
I have a question, Suheir.
You have a mic?
I do now.
Tell me.
When you were detained this time, for real, how did it differ from when you had to act it in terms of, your reaction versus your character's reaction, and did you?
Girl. I had my same interrogator that I had last year. Yes. I go to Palestine every year with the Palestine Literature Festival. I highly recommend you look it up online, palfest.org. We've had amazing writers show up from all around the world, mostly the UK. It's not a US-based initiative, as you can imagine. And I'm lucky to be, as an American, that they invite me, particularly for the Palestinian population. But so the trip that I went in October where I lost my manuscript, I didn't go through Allenby. I went through another bridge, the Northern Bridge, which is called the Tourist Bridge, which is the bridge most Americans use to go in. And I was held there for 6 hours. Thank God the taxi driver waited. Now, when I got back to the bridge this time, I went back to Allenby. So I hadn't been there since the summer, but I had my summer interrogator. I can make you laugh. For instance, he said to me, Suheir, why don't you have Skype? How do you maintain relationships? Yeah. He said to me, in October, you were here, your birthday, 36, you do not have a lover or friends to take you out? You come here? Yes. Oh, I thought that was gonna make you laugh. That's the good one. That's the good stuff, girl. Yes. But this same here book, which is, this is the book, the day I lost my manuscript, I went in Ramallah, I picked up this book, I put Linnell Moise's collage on there, Haitian poet, and ever since then I've been recollecting the Queen of Sheba, and Hatshepsut, and Makeda, and Bilqis, and all of the women who actually did exist as this queen, and none of the men. It's not because I don't want to collect them, I just haven't found them yet. But we know the queens existed. This is not something, as you know, I knew when I set out on this, when we were talking about it like 2 years ago. So I showed him this. And this was all I carried in with me. And he knew about my interrogation in the fall, They've watched all my YouTube videos. Now just recognize, right, when I went on Def Poetry Jam, I was the last person that they freaking invited, the last person that they accepted, and I barely got on. And there was no YouTube. So I thought maybe someone would record it one day, and I would get to see it like 3 or 4 times. I never in my wildest, no one knew that. Like recognize we live, like that's how fast time is moving. It's not just 10 years. It's those 10 years that like all of these people were getting up just recording their poems and now it's there. So yes, the IDF Googles and YouTubes me while they're interrogating me. Yes, and they come back and they talk about it. And this year they opened up my email. Which is why it's good to feel free. Which is why I ask you these kinds of questions. And now what grade are you getting, or what are you gonna do with your degree? Because everyone asks you those kinds of questions. But when you're like upside down, that's not what comes back to you. So it's different every time. I'm gonna try again for the spring. I am like different every time, and you go through like a detox. You have to. It's just like a lot. Are there any other questions before I read a couple more poems? Or like comments, or a story or ghost you remember. Did anyone here ever think about the Queen of Sheba? Hear about the Queen of Sheba? Did anyone ever tell you, who do you think you are? You know when people tell you, who do you think you are? It's just because they're lazy, they're not finishing the statement. The statement has always been the Queen of Sheba. That's the phrase. It's the phrase. So you could always answer for them. Where are you?
Actually, when I was little, that's one thing that I used to do to boss my younger sisters around, is pretend to be the queen of Sheba.
What is your name? I gotta get you.
My name's Kunzan.
Kunsan.
But anyway, aside from that,
Do you remember any of your heirs?
but I don't know, I'm the oldest of three, so, and we're all girls, so I would just do that. But my question is, why choose the term ghost, or why use ghost instead of like another maybe like manifestation of your former self, or which could also be a ghost, or I don't know, something else, but I guess ghost is a very specific term to use.
It's
Of
true.
haunted, or of a sort of in-between state of not living but not really moved on, So I wondered like why use ghost, because even though like in past states doesn't necessarily mean like if it was completely negative or positive. But I guess the connotation is kind of like a traumatized, haunted past
Yeah.
as a part of self.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I've been looking for the language, right, around that, what strikes as that splitting, and to know that the shadow is just as alive as, what you're bringing to the forefront. And I guess like ghost is one of the words. And I think I probably use it to challenge my own prejudices about evil and creepy and haunting and devil and, like the goth stuff, never a goth girl. But but also aware that there's something in a haunting. There's a repetition in a haunting. There's an echo. And it's like if you listen to particularly female vocalists, Patti LaBelle or Clefum, there's like that when you say that there's this otherworldly. I guess that's so if you can come up with a word with me. I've thought of like jinn. There are different energies, and I've been looking for like what energies would fit that. And that's the reach of poetry, and that's where poetry fails, all the time. That's why, I said to Jack, if this research and this study doesn't create like the most amazing book, the book of my life, then I'll just have a decent poetry collection, just some nice poems that can go. I'm gonna look up more words for ghost in different languages too. Angel too, angel. I like angel as like oh, you have your hand up.
I had my hand up. Hi, I just want to share a quick ghost story.
Tell me.
My heart is pounding. This is like impressing on me so much. But I was born in the States. My parents are Indian. And the first time I went to India, I was 11 months. And then I went back in 1998. So I was like 16 or 17. And everyone there knew me and knew how I was when I was there, when I was an 11-month-old baby. And so everybody I met knew me, knew about me, had new stories of me. And I was experiencing everything for the first time in my own shoes. So for me, it was crazy. It was just a crazy experience because there was constant stories of how I was, not who I am at that point when I was there. And it was almost a battle with my family to, not in any negative way, but just to get to know them again. And I felt that the ghost terminology is really appropriate because in that trip I felt like I had been everywhere, and this was my second time, but really it was my first. And it made me write a lot when I was there, and everyone there knew the me there, but I didn't know the me there. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What's your name?
Tejal? Tejal?
Dejo?
Tejal?
How do you spell it?
Tejal?
I did just say angel though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna read two poems, right? And one of them is, so this idea of like ghosts not really being the right word. So I'd written this poem in Eve's voice, right? Eve, original. Eve before Yani. It was my tale he was after from the get-go, aiming my way whenever I turned to mend a black hole or spot a leopard, always venom ready. That fruit said it was like my breast, a pomegranate, heavy and ripe, hung close enough for his lips to quiver. That snake always following me around the garden, always right there rising, just below his belly. What's now called heaven was once my crib. Anyway, it goes on, right? I wrote that like at 22, obviously. So I kept thinking, right, of this idea of like Eve and leaving, and she goes somewhere, and so this whole sense of the Queen of Sheba, whoever she was, leaving her queendom and going somewhere, right? So this idea of the first Hajar, right? Hajar is not a name. Hajar means she who left. I didn't even know that. I was walking around like that's her name. No, so there's always this thing of the expulsion or the leaving. So I went back to that poem and many poems that I'd kept over the years but never published and rarely read. You know, I could make them fly at a club in the middle of the night, you know. But there was something on the page and there was something in what I was attempting that had not reached fruition yet, right? So with this poem, I've gone back into it and I've written it out in ghazal form. So all of the narratives in this book, whether it's Hajar or Isis or Hatshepsut, or they're all one. They're all in the ghazal form. Now, it is very interesting to work in this form because I tried all these different forms that I felt like would be more academically pleasing and that's my own insecurity, right? Like we all have them. So I was like, no, let me do the stuff that's gonna the ghazal like completely opened me up. I tried it before, but it changed the story for me. So and there's a syllabic count. There's a scheme, and at the end of every poem that's in the ghazal form, the poet has to announce herself, right? So you'd be like, Samantha, then finish the poem and put it away. So it becomes very interesting when you're writing about Lot's wife, and you get to the end of the poem and she has no name. What happens to the form then? It's never the same. Once that knowledge is brought onto the form itself, the mathematical structure, that house is changed. And then they keep trying to sell us the same blueprint. So this is Eve's ghazal. I'm still working on, here it is. It was my tale he was after from the get-go, aiming my way while I mended what all Spot a leopard, always venom ready, that fruit, breast, pomegranate, heavy ripe lips, all, a quiver, that snake, always following me round the garden, right there, rising below all. Heaven once was my crib, lush green sunshine, cool water, mad calm, jazz swing, doublet, eyed string, all. Stars through the sky, trace Mars' origin to womb, spit into dust to clay. He came from my all, he from my ankle, not I his rib. Root, taxed my body, original sin, cursed all. Treated him as brother, we shared one mother. He was greedy, fiending fruit, I offered all. His lust ran red, deep within the belly, snake couldn't shake him off me. His greed soured all. He split big to swallow fruit, tear what was once whole, bite, chew, spit out his war seeds. I bled all, the world was born. I fled this man's paradise, holding myself sore, torn, bore his bastards, all pointed their blame. My hiding place beneath painted face, my hide prized for tone, for pitch, hunted by all from angel to bitch. Looked and found nudity, no amount of cloth could fix the layers all, no matter of veils. I was naked for him. The earth washed out my skin, the stars stolen all from my eyes, that fruit rotten, me forgotten. It was Eve's tale he was after all. I know you have to go through with it. So the thing about writing in that form, and it's with some of the poems, is that they're all couplets, right? So these are 11 couplets, maybe, 11 syllables each. But basically what I want to do is if you threw this whole thing up in the air and it came down anyway, and there's a number, it's in the thousands. I actually looked it up. I should have brought it with me today. But there is a number of the infinite ways in which all of these particular, not infinite, all of these particular thoughts and ideas can be rearranged. You look so confused. What are you thinking about? No, with the stripe. What happened?
My mind wandered off.
Here, take the poem. You can read it later. Give me this poem, please.
So she went, I started reading and she went back to the garden.
Made me think about something.
I thought so, but I could really feel it on me. So don't read it now. Read it later. And I don't even know what's on the back of it because I recycle. So I'm gonna do one more poem, but so it's just we all got comfortable. Would you guys mind moving up a little bit so I don't read to empty seats? Just these here, can the people in the front be more, together? If you're in the back, could you move up? Do you mind? Can we just do you mind? If we just try to fill up the area? I really appreciate it. I'm gonna ask that the camera be turned off.
Thank you, Suheir. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to say that we've been able to bring a major collection of materials collected in the research of Jack Shaheen, who's written this book, Real Bad Arabs, and also other amazing books that are talking about Hollywood's representations of Arabs and Muslims. That collection has arrived, it's here, but it still needs to be processed, and we're actually really hoping that some of you actually might be interested in interning and working on these collections. And it's actually a great opportunity, especially if you're a starting graduate student, as an undergrad, to work on a paper, whatever it may be. So if you have that interest, let us know. We're going to be working, as the collection is being processed, we're also going to be organizing film festivals and panel discussions, and we're really hoping to develop this dialogue with Kevorkian and Middle Eastern Studies and other folks on campus. So this is really a great opportunity to get involved in a collection. This is a man who's been doing this for 30 years, and he's donated that research collection to us to work on. And really his goal is for all of you all to begin to work with that material. That's really his hope and wish. So I wanted to mention that. Okay, so that's going to be happening this year as well, which is very exciting. It's really great to have this be coinciding with Suheir's being here. And also there'll be other events that we're going to be thinking about, brainstorming about, and organizing. So please, keep that in mind. Make sure you sign up on our list in case you're not already on the list, so you can kind of keep track of what's going on. Check on the website. We do have a few, not a lot. I mean, Suheir's work is being reprinted, and we weren't able to get together to have you buy, but there are a few DVDs that are for sale upstairs. So please, check that out if you can. And as we do more events, hopefully some of these materials will be more available. We have some food and drink and a chance to actually talk to Suheir and to each other. So please go on upstairs and enjoy. So thank you all for coming today.